All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and get started here. It's me, Travis, with Diesel Laptops, and we have Dustin here with us as well. We're gonna be going through the off-highway side today, kind of a tips and tricks, some pointers and things y'all can use to speed your process up, and these may be some issues that y'all have ran into when trying to connect to some equipment. First thing I'm gonna start and go over is some of the connection points, and then I'll kind of go into the software a little bit. This first picture here, everything's circled here with this white and red to let you know where the actual data link is. We're plugged into a Kubota engine in an Atlas co-compressor here. Normally you'll find this end of the harness actually plugged back in over here on the main harness. These Kubota connectors are a little hard to find. Most of their machines are going to be pretty well hidden from you. Some of your skid steers and things will be underneath your armrests, and we'll kind of get into that as we go on. And if you got any questions about specific locations or anything, just let us know. This next connection point is fairly simple here. This is on a Case CX80C, which is just an excavator. Behind the seat here, next to the fuse block. Next to the fuse blocks where you're going to find most of your manufacturer's connectors. Now, one thing with Case, you may find this on the ag side as well. You may have multiple connectors in there. Typically, they're going to be labeled to let you know, whether this is going back to the DCU or the ECU, but sometimes you're not going to have a label on that machine. It's going to tell you, so you're going to have to physically hook up and try to scan in and see which one's actually pulling the information from the data link. This next picture here, this is just on a Cat 316. This is an excavator as well. This was behind the seat. Some of your older excavators, you'll actually find it behind this first door here. You typically next to the batteries or the fuse box on the machine. On this next one, this is actually a JCB telehandler here. As you can see, it's got a 9-pin connector right here. But this little box right here, you see to the right, here, inside of here, you actually have 2 connectors in there, and sometimes you'll need to swap those around depending on which side of the machine you're trying to get onto, whether it's, hydraulic transmission or if you're going into the engine. If you're going into the engine, there's no need to swap them unless they've been swapped around previously. So if you're getting very limited information when you try to scan into those 2 modules, try and change those connectors there. They should be a 3-pin. They look very similar to like a Cummins ECM connector. Next one here, this is actually on a John Deere Traco. This is just a 120D. You're going to find with John Deere, a lot of them will be Hitachi based as well. So you're going to find a 9-pin for that John Deere engine, and then usually in the cab behind the seats, you're actually going to find a 6-pin rectangle connector, and that's going to be for the body and the hydraulic side of things. If this one were to happen to have an Isuzu in it, then chances are that would actually be a Hitachi machine, and you would be able to pin it out. And in the software, it kind of shows you the locations of some of these, and we'll go through those here shortly. Next one here, this was actually on a Kubota farm tractor. Once again, they hide their connectors really well. This is up there by the air cleaner, and they actually have a resistor plugged into it right here. On this next one, this is a QSB. This is actually in a Doosan air compressor. And with Cummins, you'll still have that triangle 3-pin connector at the ECM, but in the Doosan air compressor, most of those will actually give you a 9-pin as an option out here. All right. On Bobcat, you've actually got 2 connectors on a Bobcat. You've got one for the machine side, which you see just barely outside of the circle here. It's kind of a round shaped connector, and then you'll have a square one down here. Depending on the year of the machine, in 2014, I believe it was, Doosan started building some of the Bobcat engines. You'll see them labeled as Bobcat in there. Those will take this T63 connector, and if yours is a little bit older, then you're going to find it's a Kubota engine in there, and you'll have a T55 connector. Both of these connectors look very similar. Okay, we'll come back to these screens here in a minute. Next, I want to get into the software. I'm going to start just going through a demo of the John Deere tractor here. It's all broken down. Your ag's going to be mostly your farm equipment, your construction, of course, your dirt moving equipment there. Crane and container, A lot of times you'll find forklifts in there if you're looking for that as well. And of course, industrial engines, which is going to be your stationary engines and your generators, pumps, compressors, things like that. Under ag, I'm going to go through here. I'm going to choose a John Deere 7R because it shows a pretty good demo here through the software. Okay. First thing you see is the system scan blinking at you. On John Deere, I've never seen a problem with system scan. If you get into Caterpillar, I would not recommend that. I would recommend using a vehicle checkup OEM, but I'll touch on that again in a little while. Okay. The biggest issue we see with people connecting into John Deere, Case, New Holland, same way, anything you find on a 9-pin. Well, let me back out so you guys can see the connector here. This film strip you always see to the right next to the start button. This is typically going to tell you what connector you need and location. A lot of guys get the software and they start choosing this T16. This cable is actually pinned different, and the one you want to choose is going to be this adapter 9-pin. You're still going to use that regular 9-pin like you would use on your trucks or any other equipment there. You're just going to choose this in the software. The next screen that'll come up on here will give you, of course, your connector you're using here, you've chosen. And then the bottom left is going to let you know whether that's interior or engine compartment. And to the right, they always give you a short little video here of where to connect. You're not going to find this video on every single machine. You're not going to find it under that stationary engine option. But these can be really helpful in some of these, especially you get into Kubota and manufacturers like that. They kind of hide their connectors. All right. We'll go back out and go to the start button. If you were connected to a live machine, you could have hit start there and that would have gone on through. But since we're going through a demo unit here to show you, get it back out. Okay. While this is loading up, a lot of guys ask about the power pack. Most of your 9-pin stuff, it's going to power through that data link. Once you get into these other connectors, that's when it's going to determine whether or not you need that external power. Kubota, for example, you're going to be able to connect in fine. It's going to power that box as soon as you start the engine or bump that key over. The problem's going to lie whenever you try to reset soot load and you need to cut that key off. Then you're going to have that external power there to keep that TXT box powered up to reset the soot load, and then you can go on in with your functionality. Okay, software, very similar. You guys have been through the truck class. You're going to have all your parameters over here. Any of these you can double click. They're going to graph out for you. We're in demo mode, so you see a lot of 0%. Faults here, probably the most important is, of course, yellow is going to be your inactive faults. This star 1, 2, 3 you see down here, this is going to be your freeze frame data for the code. It's just going to be some parameters that were there at the time that code's set. All right. Another thing we can do is we can take this code number here and we can link it back to one of two programs to try to get some service information out of it. DTC Solutions is going to be more of like a quick reference, try to point you in the right direction, and your knowledge base is going to be more of your trouble trees. I'm going to go into DTC Solutions first. I've already pulled up here John Deere in a 9-liter, and this one here is actually our code there, that 2659 FMI 14. And this is kind of what this looks like. It's indicating a fault in the EGR system. It's going to give you, look for these other codes. These need to be repaired first, some related information, and then some possible causes. Now, if this wasn't enough information for you here, you'd go into knowledge base. Knowledge base is now online based. It used to be in just a PDF format. For you guys that have the new version, this is what it looks like. The guys running the older version there, you can go into tech support and they can't update that for you. Under off-highway here, we're just going to choose our manufacturer. We're going to go in by engine. We're going to find this 6090. Another good thing with the program here under John Deere If you're in here and you do not know which engine you have, which hopefully you do by this point, working on it, this engine code here on John Deere, what that 6090 means is a 6-cylinder 9-liter. So that's what we're going to be looking for here. Go back to this fault, 265914. All right, we'll let this load up here. And scroll down until we find the code. Okay. As you can see, this loads a little faster than you guys that have the older version, where it's all about PDF. And this will kind of walk you through and give you some steps to go through there and check. I'm going to back out of this and we'll go into some more on the actual software here. Okay, to confirm that. Activation, this is always going to be your tests. And your settings tab is where you're going to find your regens. It's also where you're going to find your soot load resets, depending on your manufacturer, and here, DOC replacements. And you also see down here at the bottom, programming injectors. Anytime you're programming these injectors, take pictures of the injector and the numbers on there. You don't want to mix your letters up, already have the injector in the engine and have to pull it back down because one letter is off. The biggest thing I see with John Deere in particular is a lot of guys mix up zeros and O's. We get out of this demo. And you guys can run that system scan. Like I said, that's going to tell you, you know, what you actually have on that machine. Typically under your auxiliary distributors on the tractor side, it's going to be your couplers. Whenever we get into the dirt side in a minute, you'll see they put a lot of the machine control modules on the dirt side you'll find under auxiliary distributors. Okay, these 3 blue buttons up here, I kind of recommend that as like a last resort. Typically, that's going to show every single option for every ECM variant, and it's not going to break it down by tier or anything else. So you may have a tier 3 engine, and you will see the option in here to force a regen. You can go through and try to connect that way, but you're going to get an error there because that particular functionality just does not apply. All right. Next thing I want to go in here. One thing I want to touch on real quick. A lot of guys see this Atlas Topco here. They click it, and they automatically think that's going to get them into these compressors. There's a couple manufacturers in here, in particular, that will only have one model listed. So you're going to have to go through that industrial engine option. But up here on the top on this blue bar, that'll clue you in. You see dumper up here. What they're referring to by dumper is they basically mean a rock truck or an articulating truck. So definitely pay attention to that bar up there. Okay. Back to, I want to go into this Bobcat we were looking at a while ago. You can see this is going to divide it up between your engine make. You go in here and you choose, you're going to have vehicle total diagnosis, which is going to be the machine side of that skid steer, and then diesel injection. These are going to be separate. And then, of course, this is going to break it down between the dosing module and the engine module. So you will find that sometimes you'll have to back out and go back in. Sometimes, if you had a system scan button up here, you may see that engine module come up, but not the dosing module. So you're going to want to use these buttons down here on the bottom, especially once you run through the system scan and you find out what other options you have there as far as your braking system, suspension, things like that. A lot of guys ask, is there a way to check, you know, just to see if I'm getting anything across a standard 9-pin data line? There is a way. For you guys that strictly have off-highway, we can run through this construction side, through John Deere, and you're going to choose this Excavator G series here, Yanmar. And if you choose diesel injection and click start right here, it's going to give you a warning. It's going to say press confirm. That kind of looks like you shouldn't be clicking there. Go ahead and click that. And what it'll do is it'll go ahead and do basically a general scan for anything on 1708 and 1939 lines. Once it does connect in there, you can actually go through that activations tab and you'll see an option there for switch ECU. You can also use this to access other modules on the machine. Of course, you're not going to have the bi-directional functionality going there, but if you do have a machine that we don't have, hydraulic coverage for or anything else, and you need to look at some of those parameters, a lot of times you can go in that way, and that'll allow you to at least get some sort of information off the machine, maybe your fault codes and your parameters there. Okay. I want to go in here and talk about Caterpillar for a minute. Just going to choose a dozer here. Cat runs dual protocol on most all of their machines. Typically, you're going to find an ATL in a 1939 or a CDL in a 1939. The system scan up here, a lot of times it's only going to pick up on that 1939 protocol. So I generally recommend people come down here to this vehicle checkup OEM. I'm just choosing demo here. Your guys' units won't show that, but well, we can get in here and take a look. Cat and Volvo will probably be your two slowest to connect with this software. They take right around 2 minutes apiece. Your other manufacturers, generally, they go pretty well right in within a few seconds or so. All right. What this scan does is looking for any fault code across all of the systems here. And they're going to go ahead and give them to you. You can double click these from this screen. That's going to give you your fault, your FMI, SPN, whatever the case may be. Most importantly here is this status tab. This is going to show you which modules it picked up on this machine. And you can see in the demo, it picked up on a machine controller and the engine. Okay, normally what you'll have right here next to the right here where the line is, instead of seeing this line, you'll see no errors detected or errors detected. And then at that point, I need to back out and actually go into that engine machine or engine ECM. ECU info, this is going to tell you right here that this is running dual protocol. And then, of course, under activations, it'll let you clear errors from here. You're not going to have any bidirectional going through vehicle checkup OEM. You're going to actually have to connect to that module for that. But at least this will point you in the right direction, and it's kind of a quick scan in there to let you know the health of the machine there. Okay. Now that I know that, I'd come in here and I would choose Caterpillar. All right. I want to click this film strip here. We have a lot of guys, your unit will come with a T38 cable typically. This is going to be your Cat 9-pin. A lot of guys try to use this on John Deere, Case, New Holland, everyone else that has a 9-pin. It will push in there. It'll plug in, but you're not going to connect. Okay? So make sure you're using the right cable for the application. Typically, you're going to go by these numbers to the right of this 3151. You're going to go by that T38 or that T61 if it's a newer Cat. Here. Back out, and I want to go into diesel injection under this demo. And if you guys have any questions, just stop me and let me know. Here you're going to see this machine supports 2 protocols. Which one do you want to use? Most of the time, most of your functionality, most of your information is going to be on that 1939. If you see something missing in there, you can actually hit this up arrow down here, and that'll allow you to change this protocol to the other one. We're going to go ahead and hit confirm because we're going to go into this 1939. It's going to start scanning for your parameters and your errors at this point. And as you can see, you're going to get that warning there for your 2 minutes. If it goes beyond those 2 minutes, chances are it's not communicating. At that point, you need to call into tech support, see what's going on, or check the data link on the machine itself. Okay. Under settings here, question we get a lot of times is coding injectors. Let me see if I can find this on this demo unit. There it is. Injector coding with trim files. Okay. You guys are going to get a disk, a thumb drive, whatever from CAT, and you're going to need to load these files. How this works in order to load these, I'm going to jump over to my desktop here. Excuse all the icons, but you're going to be looking for off-highway TEXA SPA Exchange Manager. You're going to double click this. You're going to already have that disk or thumb drive in the laptop at that point. And you're going to be looking for this folder in. Okay. Once this comes up, you're just going to choose your manufacturer. See, mine says empty right now. You'd have another file explorer open here with your trim files, and you're just going to drag those over here. Now, when you do that, make sure you don't drag the whole folder. If you do, the software is not going to pick up on it. Generally, I tell people just pick the trim files you're looking for. If you've got 6 injectors, grab those 6 trim files. It's a lot easier. You're not having to dig through it on the software to find it. Once you enter those in there, you can connect with the machine, and you'll hit start here, and you will actually have a screen that comes up asking you which of those trim files you just loaded do you want to, put with Injector 1, Injector 2, whichever your case may be, depending on which one you're replacing. Okay. I want to go into Komatsu and really just talk about this one in particular here. Since the latest update, we have had a new cable come about for Komatsu. This is going to be, you guys, on that 12-pin rectangle cable. We currently don't have these in. They should be coming in shortly. And you'll be able to connect in. This is going to be that connection. Any of you guys that run into this, if you don't have that cable, I do have a pinout for it. You can email me. I'll give you my email afterwards, and you can go ahead and get into that. Typically, that's going to be in the cases where you can't get in through that 3-pin at the ECM. Komatsu and Cummins paired up in the early 90s and started building engines together. So most of them actually have a 3-pin and will actually connect through the Cummins option. And you see that 3-pin listed here under this one. The other new cable they've added has been Yanmar. There is a Yanmar category here under construction, and there's a Yanmar category underneath the industrial engine option. We'll get to the industrial in a minute, but this cable as well, like I say, we're waiting on. A lot of guys have asked for this Yanmar coverage. This is going to be a T65 cable. This is going to be that small 6-pin you guys are used to seeing. It's got an orange insert in the middle, and that's going to be the cable you're looking for. This over here to the right, you can see this is going to ask you for vehicle battery supply. And you're going to find that on any of them that ask for your external power. I'm going to go into Kubota here. And this is just on a skid steer, but I want to run into this demo. And that connector location on this one's underneath the armrest. If you're sitting in the seat, it'll be your right armrest, kind of underneath the cup holder. Okay. Once you go under Kubota, a lot of guys will get soot level codes in here. They need to force a regen, basically. What they're going to be looking for is soot load reset first. You're going to find this with some of these manufacturers. A lot of them you'll have to reset a soot load, reset a DPF filter, however they word it in their particular software, to actually go in and force a regen. This is going to be the command you're looking for, the soot load reset, and then you're going to want to do this manual regeneration afterwards. Now, soot load reset is going to ask you to cut the key off for about 30 seconds or so and cut it back on. That'll give that time to reset, and then you'll run that manual regeneration. Now, in a lot of the Kubota units, you'll also have, a switch in the cab as well where you can force a regen. Once you initiate into the software, if it runs through that switch, you're going to have to hold that switch down for a few seconds after you initiate it. Then it'll go on through. You can force the regen at that point and further diagnose if need be, or hopefully it completes the regen and your soot level problems are gone. Okay. I'm going to go in here and talk about Volvo for just a minute. And Volvo or interim. Okay. Volvo breaks theirs down a little differently. You'll see special parameters and you'll see diagnosis here. Of course, if you're just trying to diagnose, get fault codes, things like that, go into this diagnosis, but a lot of times you're going to find under the special parameters, this is where you're going to make all your changes. If you go in through system scan, you're just going to see the engine show up. You're not going to see these special parameters where you can go in there and change things. So make sure you're using these buttons down at the bottom. Most of your Kubotas, if you see this connector in it in this construction, that's going to be tier 3, tier 4 interim. If you've got an OBD2 in there, that's going to be your tier 4 finals. And this is going to require that external power there. They do as well, they break it down even further on Volvo to engine vehicle adjustment, and they break this down by special parameters and diagnosis. Now, that's not to say that your machine's going to have all these options in here. It's just going to depend on the particular one as to which one of these you're going to be choosing. If you ever get a message that says communication interrupted, re-energized, chances are either you've got something hooked up wrong or you've chosen the wrong category in the software, one of the two. One thing I meant to touch on a second ago with that cat, and I'm going to go back to that real quick so you guys can see. I'm going to go under an excavator here. Cat also breaks theirs down between an equipment control module and a machine control module, or the possibility of an excavator control module. This is where you're going to run that vehicle checkup OEM to see what you've got there. Most of them you're going to find it's going to be a machine control module. It's going to be this particular variant. We'll go ahead and connect in here so you guys can kind of see what it looks like.
Hey, guy.
Yes,
got
sir.
a question for you.
All
right. In the body control module and the actual EC and the engine control module, can you go in there and clear codes from either one of them? Or do you have to do it from the main engine control or from the main body control?
You're trying to clear engine code, you're saying?
Yeah, if you go in there and you have like a cluster code, do you have to go in there to the body control module or to the engine control module?
Right, anything dealing with the engine, you're going to have to go in through that. You're going to have to go through that diesel injection option. You can also clear them through that. Now, you can go through vehicle checkup OEM, and you're going to be able to clear everything from there. Typically, I recommend, of course, go to that module directly. That way you're getting your parameters and you're making sure you're getting all the information you need there before you clear something out. With TEXA, whenever you do clear, you'll actually see them go green. They are out of the system at that point, but it kind of hangs onto it in the software. That way, if you were to accidentally clear them out, they're still there for you to look at as long as you're connected. Now, once you back out of the software and connect back in, you're not going to see them there anymore.
Gotcha. Okay. And where did you go to find all that information at one time?
The vehicle checkup OEM option. I'll show you as soon as we back out of this screen here. Okay. Under the machine controller, that's typically where you're going to find any of your hydraulic settings. Of course, everything's going to be under the settings tab to get in here and adjust. Depending on the machine, how much functionality is there, you may be able to change, flow settings, the configurations, travel speed if you've got a dozer, things like that. Anything you see with this web question mark next to it now, you will need to be online. You can hotspot on your phone, regular hotspot, however you guys go about doing it. But it's going to need to ping a server there. So make sure you're online if you need to do that. Typically, you're not going to find it on most of your critical commands like forcing a regen. But any settings you want to get in there and change, I guess you say parameters you want to change, you're going to find that web icon there. I'll just let you kind of take a look here before I back out, and then I'll show you that vehicle checkup OEM again.
Okay.
And same thing, any of your joysticks you got to calibrate. You're typically going to find in that machine controller. Oh. Okay. That was that vehicle checkup OEMs where you're going to be scanning the whole machine there.
Okay, that includes body control and engine.
Right. That's going to look for anything coming through that data link.
Okay.
And you're going to find that with most manufacturers in there. Typically, I use it before I use system scan on anything. So.
Oh. Yeah, that way you can bring everything up, and then you can go back and break down to where you need to go directly as far as either engine or body control, right?
Yes, sir. That's just going to kind of be, I don't want to say generic, but it's just going to be an overview of it. And once you actually go into each system individually, that's where you're going to get all your information, all your different parameters for that system.
Right, and then you go into your at the bottom where you can find what the code is and what it means.
Right, that's where you're going to be going back into. Most of you guys will probably use DTC solutions for the most part. I'll just choose a cat here since we were messing with it.
Okay.
I'm just choosing one at random here, injector fault. And then, you know, you've got that fault code, and you can read through here to give you some possible causes. That way you kind of know where to check.
Gotcha. And on that DTC solution, that's for any manufacturer?
Some of it will break it down between like John Deere in here. We've got some of the machines. Same deal here with Komatsu as well. This is something they're steady building on, so you're not going to find every single thing in there. If we do have the information, though, we'll gladly pass it on to you if you call into tech support or something. As long as we've got our hands on the information, we can help you out with that fault code you've got there.
Okay. Y'all, is case in there?
I don't know if they've added it into DTC. I know there's a little bit of it in the knowledge base.
The knowledge base?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, the knowledge. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and yours may, like I said, yours may look a little different depending on how old your unit is if you haven't updated. I've got a little bit of case in there.
Okay.
Just one engine under that one, but a lot of times you can tie that back into ag side or wherever you need to go to get the most information there. Cummins. Some of them will give you the full manual like that. It just depends. Some of this stuff as well, if you guys have truck, you know, Cummins, it may cross over between a QS or an IS as well. Okay. Is there any demos you'll want to see in particular? If we've got the demo functionality here while we're going through.
Yeah, can you do a case skid steer?
Yeah. Let's see what we got in here. All right, it doesn't give me a demo option in there. We can do.
About the backhoe.
Yeah, we'll just jump to the backhoe. We're going in interim. See if I can find one with the demo. Tier 3 showing a demo. The diesel injection. Okay. This is where I was talking about a lot of times you'll see if you've got multiple data links in there, you see this 17C49. It's actually going to be ECM code here. A lot of times you'll find that written on it if you've got, 2 or 3 different data links in there and you're trying to figure out which one's got the engine on it.
Right.
And on these, they're going to be broken up between whether it's on CAN line, K line, and you'll have the 2 different options there for one ECM. So that's once again where I wouldn't recommend doing that system scan. Go in this way on it. You will see this dashboard down here on the bottom too. That's just going to take those same parameters, but it'll kind of put it in a picture format for you. Kind of makes it like a flow chart, a little bit easier to read. So if you guys see that functionality down there, I'd definitely go to it. It'll help you out there. Another one I want to jump over and look at before I forget is Hitachi, because a lot of these John Deere machines are going to be Hitachi. If you can match that up with the series here, a lot of times you're going to find this connector here behind the seat. All right. Most of the John Deere stuff in there, you're not going to see that option for a connector. And if you don't, you can come over here to the Hitachi side and just choose your connector here and enter in. Now you will need, once again, the external power there. I'll go into the demo and let you take a look. Hitachi is done a little bit differently, especially on the engine side. You'll see here. This one's not in the engine side, but you will find reading parameters underneath your activation tab. Not sure if this one will do it under demo mode, but on this, you break it down by what you've got. Pressure. Okay, being in demo, it's just going to give me the option for pressure. I'll hit confirm, and it'll actually give it to you in this format here. Depending on how many, different parameters there, you'll have a little arrow down here at the bottom so you can scroll through. Definitely be aware with that, you guys that are messing with John Deere and Hitachi equipment. All right. Well, I think I have pretty much covered it. You guys got any more questions for us?
Hey, can we go look at a John Deere 310 K for a demo? Or KEP?
KEP. Typically, you're going to run that under this one, and just gives an option for diesel injection for the demo, but these are going to be the different systems you can look at on that machine. Auxiliary distributors, your gateway, it's typically going to be your body controller, vehicle control unit, hydraulic management. It's just going to depend on your machine which of these you actually have.
Now, will that give me, without physically putting a manual gauge on like the auxiliary hydraulics, will I be able to tell pressure from this? Like if they're running a breaker and I want to see what kind of pressure it's running?
You're asking if you can see a parameter on what pressures you've got there?
Yeah. Without physically putting a flow meter or a gauge in it.
What was that?
Without physically putting a flow meter or a gauge on the hydraulics itself, will that show me any kind of pressure that's running?
It's going to depend on how the OEM software does it on that particular one. Most of them, it's broken down into your voltage because it's just basing it off of, your actual sensors there.
All right.
It's not going to completely eliminate that. Some of your machines, it just depends on how the manufacturer does it in their OE software. Some of them you will see pressure there.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I think we're good.
All right. What I'm going to do is I'll put my email up on the screen. If you guys got anything, I do take the unit out in the field during the week and do some testing on it. But feel free to email me. Maybe I can answer some of your questions. Definitely, if it's, an emergency or something, definitely call tech support and try and get with them first. But if you're not in a huge hurry for a response, because I may be out there in the field, then email me about it and I'll see what I can find out for you if I don't know the answer.
That technical support number, is that up on this when you bring up on the laptop, or do we need to get that from our paperwork?
Yeah, the tech support number, if you dial the number that's on the pad down, palm rest down on the bottom of your laptop there, it's just 888-983-1975, and then it'll be option 2 will get you into tech support.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Well, if that's it, guys, I appreciate your time, and if you need something, definitely let us know.